So we're back in business. We tested for sound and the sound works. So now I'm going to do some top stitching. So I've got my 12 weight cotton in my needle. I've got regular 50 weight sewing thread in the bobbin. First step is going to be to top stitch the narrow extension. Now remember, top stitching is usually done from the top side. So I have to estimate how far from the side of the foot this is going to be so that I catch that fold. So I'm putting it in under the foot. If I move my needle to the right by a few spaces, I'm going to go to position 1, then I can use the edge of my foot as a guide to do this top stitching. So press her foot down and let's begin. And I'm only going to top stitch as far as this top sleeve or the front of the sleeve allows me to. So if I pull it out of the way, and I'll continue stitching. And that's as far as it's going to let me go. So I'm just going to cut my thread. And I'm just going to check and see if I caught the other, and I did. It worked beautifully. All right, so that's that one done. Now we have to top stitch this other one. This is the front of the sleeve. We want to stitch it twice. We want to stitch it really close to the fold, and then we want to stitch about 1/4 of an inch away. So about 1/8 of an inch from the fold, I'm going to drop my needle, and that's going to be good. So I'm going to come up, keeping the back sleeve out of the way, and I'm only going as far as the fold of the back sleeve. I'm going to drop my needle, pivot, get the stuff under the presser foot, and I'm going to take 2 stitches and see where that takes me. I'm going to take one more because I want to be about 1/4 of an inch away from that first line of top stitching. Perfect. So now I'm going to use the edge of my foot again to keep me straight along this side. And I'm not doing any reinforced stitching at the beginning and end because that stuff is going to be caught in the seam allowance when we put the cuff on. So there's our top stitching, and that's how it's going to look when it's done. So now I'm going to go to the very top of my sleeve, and I'm going to top stitch. I've pressed the seam allowance towards the sleeve front, so it's already on towards the front. So I'm going to do my first line of top stitching about 1/8 of an inch away from the seam. So I'll share with you now. I did all of this yesterday and realized that my camera, the sound wasn't working. So I decided to take all the top stitching out and do it again. Now, here's a little tip for you. I don't know if you can notice, but I'm getting a little bit of a ripple going on here, and I don't like it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take one of my business cards and I'm going to lay it down on top under the presser foot. I'm just going to drop my needle so that the foot comes up a bit. And I'm going to use the business card to hold the fabric down so that the front of the presser foot doesn't act like a snowplow. And I'm just going to continue on. I could get a longer piece, but this one's handy. This is a very useful tip if you're having issues with your machine snow plowing your fabric. I've used it in zipper application and zipper top stitching as well. Now I'm getting close to where I did my U-turn for my top piece. I want to end up exactly, let's get a pair of tweezers here to point out, I want to end up exactly on that point, which is one of the reasons I put a clear foot on my machine. So here we go. Now the other piece, the back sleeve, is underneath. So one more stitch. I'm going to turn and pivot. And I want to sew right on top of the stitches that I used when I crossed the last time. And now I'm going to turn and head back in the other direction. And this is my other line of top stitching. When I get there, I'll show you what it looks like. There we are. We have arrived. All right. So here are my lines of top stitching. They're not exactly lined up perfectly, but by the time I do a bar tack over that, it's going to hide all the imperfections. And that's how I top stitch the sleeve.